Let's see if we can get online on Twitch. Because oh, it is live. Although I have not put a title in there. Whoops. Whoops. Right. Okay, so our title is a bit messed up, which I would like to fix if possible. But if that's not going to be possible, then that's going to be fine. Hello everyone that's already there, if there's anyone there, but I think, yeah, we're online. Okay, just had to make sure. Alright. Being a bit sloppy there with the title, but we're gonna break down Vicious Cycle after the people in Discord have voted for me. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Also, let's see if we can now actually fix the title. Yes, we can. Okay. Title. Break down Vicious Cycle Lost. This is really cool. Because usually these kind of track breakdowns only happen during my actual private lessons when someone actually wants to see the process behind it. But this is the first time I'm actually doing this public for everyone, so it's pretty exciting. I'm gonna share this on my Discord and on my Instagram, and then we're gonna start. The audio should work, just to be sure. Yeah. Let me know if you cannot hear that. It might be a bit soft. If that's the case, also let me know because I can turn it up. I just don't want it to be, my voice to be too underwhelming compared to the music. So I thought this would be a pretty nice balance. Okay. Cool. If this is fun, I might actually follow up with some other tracks, and that would be really fun. Hey, Tchaikovsky. 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 Should I call it? I mean, I always struggle pronouncing your name, but it's great to see you here. Oh yeah. This is gonna be cool because you are actually an amazing violin player. So I did a little announcement. Now let's do an Instagram announcement, and then I'm ready to break down. And please, anyone, if you have any questions you would like to know, do let me know in the comments of Twitch, and I will go over them. Let's see, a little Instagram announcement with the thingy. Okay. Let's get a nicer frame for the picture. Oh, where's... like this. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Vicious Cycle track breakdown. Right, jam in a link and jam in some music. Boom. There we go. All right, let's get started now. Hey Sam, the legend. This is awesome. Great to see you here. So, Vicious Cycle. Here we go. I think it would be nice to just go in a chronological order. But if you have any specific questions, do let me know. I also will share a bit about the thought process. And I can check if these work. Perfect. They work. Yeah, it's really cool. It's just really fun to share. Also, I realize this is probably the only track in the entire album, and I really thought I had piano in every track, but this is probably the only one that doesn't have piano, if I think about it. Even Hurt has piano in it, so I'm pretty sure this is the only one that doesn't have piano, which is interesting. Okay, so I'm really excited to talk about this. I'm just, yeah, okay, everything is working. Let's just start with the intro. Let me know if it's loud enough or if it's too soft or whatever. So, this is like the violin part, and it's not a live violin because I probably would have hired a live violinist for this specific track, but it was a bit short in time, and I think it was actually a really good exercise for me to work with solo violins VST because you want it to be kind of convincing and not just rely on one articulation, which was it's definitely not as good as a real violin, but I think I made it work pretty well. And you can hear that I just combined spiccatos and marcatos, which basically is like. And then with this, like this is the main layer. But it's a bit static, right? And then this marcato on top of it, it just adds like a little lengthier thingy. Also, thanks for letting me know, Zam. I can make the intro a bit louder and then just. What about this? Yo, Ron, great to see you. So basically, this is a very helpful thing. Just it's super subtle, but I put emphasis on certain notes. Oh. You can hear like the emphasis there, which is really nice. And then on its own, it's quite boring. I mean, this is quite exposed. I will give you that. But I did like some choir evos. These are Eric Whittaker choir. But honestly, for this, you can also use the lab freebies if you want to do something similar. Also, I did some black hole reverb on it. I think pretty extreme settings. You wanted me to turn it up more? Okay, sure. Let's just also do this a bit, because we can still do that, since this is not an actual master of it. Let's see if we can turn this up a bit. This is really the softest part of the track. So, besides the choir evolution, we also have some strings that evolve, and these are really nice. I'm a big fan of them. So these are Olaf Arnold cells. They're pretty new, but they feel very live, and that's the trick when these slower, more static string parts play. Especially if it's more drony, which this one obviously is. It's really nice to have some sort of evolution going. And with evolution, it's just simple. When you play a simple sustain note on strings, it's going to be a bit static. And especially when you're working with libraries, you often also have like that you can hear how it loops. And I'm not sure, but we can maybe try out doing this. Actually, now I realize this is one of the better looping ones, but it's there. You hear that? It's the looping is quite good in these libraries, but just saying, with these they really evolve. Any evolving kind of library is kind of nice for drone notes, especially when you want to keep it organic, but also just it's really nice. And there's a ton of evolving stuff. Like you have the Olaf Arnold's Chamber Evolutions, and you have String Evolutions, and you have probably a bunch of others by Spitfire, but probably also a ton by other developers that I don't know about. And even if you don't have anything like that, you can fade in and out different articulations or different strings. So that's something you can also do, which I didn't do here, but it's really fun to do. Just trying to elaborate on my thought process there. But essentially, that's the entire intro. Just these are disabled. Just by the way, it's just these strings and the choir, and then the solo violin on top. And then here we have this kind of swelling sounds, which adds a lot of emotion because it's quite bland in the beginning and it's quite static. And then now we change it up with these strings here, which I want to solo for a bit. Together with these. Then that's so nice. I mean, harmony wise, it's really, really simple. I think we're in what scale? I think we're in F sharp minor. Yeah, which is like most of my album. It's in F sharp minor. And we kind of go up here. And then here we go down a bit. And this one's kind of dissonant, so I think that's really nice touch because you have the F here, which is not an F sharp minor. Yeah, F sharp minor is the key, yeah. So basically, you get this. I'm gonna play it on the piano because my music theory kind of sucks, but I want to elaborate on that kind of. I'm using way too many pianos here at the same time. Let's just do one. Yeah, okay. So, and then you have to. You sure it's G minor? Well, I guess in relation to this one, that should be not G minor. Okay, yeah, it's a joke because during writing violins, Ron and I were working on it, and Ron accidentally played in G minor, even though the song is in C minor, so it confused us both. But that was pretty fun. How even us musicians can get our brain messed up. Thanks. So this piano is Woodchester. It's a upright felted piano recorded by James Everingham for Fracture Sounds, and it's super nice. And they also have some Atmos layers. I used this one in quite a few places in my album, but not in this song. I just wanted to elaborate on the harmony where I just did. Which I think is really nice because it keeps it kind of. It really keeps that cycle alive. It doesn't really. This kind of feels like it wants to dissolve, so it's like a bit dissonant and it wants to go somewhere, but then we just continue that in a loop. And I really did that on purpose because I felt like if you keep the music going in a direction where it doesn't feel like it's gonna resolve entirely, then you kind of keep that room to repeat. And since this is the vicious cycle, it's really about that kind of cycle. Oh, yeah, it's easy to mix them up, to mix them up, yeah. Okay, but let's see, layer-wise, apart from that, the violin is basically the same story. Strings, okay, I have two things going on. The chamber strings, which is spelled with Arnold's, and they just sound super realistic because they're kind of performances of string players who play like these little waves. You can just play any note, like. They have different lengths and everything, but basically it just gives this a very natural character. Because I'm pretty sure I did start out with these, which is definitely a bit more boring. And especially these because I barely did any interesting modulation. Just did simple waves to kind of go together with this. But I kept them in because they kind of adds some fullness. Also, especially when the waves get silenced, these stay in. So we have some normal sustain strings to kind of keep the space alive. These ones are all in one, which I think tonally is really nice still. Just I kept these very simple. But the main character and the main life comes from these, obviously. The Oliver Arnold's chamber evolutions, they sound very realistic. Yeah, it sounds pretty great. I use these all the time and they are super nice. So big thanks to Oliver Arnold's. And now Charles is also amazing. He makes pretty good libraries together with Spitfire. But this is not a sponsored thing at all. Just happen to use a bunch of their products. So this is probably interesting. Also, I'm gonna turn it down a tad bit right now. Yeah, I wrote this one specifically with the solo violin, so I had to work around that a lot. So basically, okay, that's this one, and that's like the main thing I had. And well, I had the melodies in mind before, so like the. Just very roughly, this melody essentially. I sketched like the harmonies and the melodies out on the piano beforehand, before I started working on this even. I really like this section because here you just get that kind of soaring sound with the strings. Also, because there's an obvious melody going on now, it gives this part a lot more definition. Also, you can notice the strings here are quite heavy. Because I'm using cello. And I layered some strings, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's nothing fancy. Although this one... Wait, this one does sound really realistic. But I needed to add some... this is a solo cello, but I needed to add some ensemble ones to make it feel more full. It was a bit too thin. Especially when you also got the solo violin going on. I think writing-wise, this part... It's cool because you kind of continue the same thing as here. But you build upon it because now the melody is introduced. But I also added horns. These are subtle, these horns. I will show them in a bit. And a little crescendo to really enter that section. What you can hear is these little... The cool thing about that is like these short woodwinds and the short strings. I think that these also give a lot of energy to it. Without this song becoming like massive in your face like a trailer track, which I also do, but then go pure in your face. Now I just kind of keep it a bit tad down. But the thing I used to get intensity here is with short strings here. So they go together with solo violin. Like they add a lot of movements, especially if you hear it like this. And if I disable them, well then obviously all you have left is this, but you can hear how much energy that adds, especially if we disable them in the full context. Hey Adrian, it's great to see you as well. You can hear how it misses energy. I wouldn't say it doesn't necessarily miss it, but I feel like the energy here is really nice to have. So it's really nice that you have that. It's such a big difference, even though it's quite subtle. And then in terms of the sustain, I thicked it out a little bit compared to the section before that. So we still got these swelling strings. We still got the Albion 1 sustains. But now we also got the strings wind patch, which I noticed I didn't color, but who cares? This one is from Arc 5, Metropolis Arc 5. And it's super nice because they are like... They work really well for when you want to do like pretty insane mod wheel curves, because the... Hear that. I don't know, this patch has a very magical sound out of all the arc patches. And then I'm not gonna count in the low brass because it's quite essential for some stuff. But this one has the most magic, and it's probably my favorite patch from, I think, from any Orchestral Tools things that I have. It's just, it sounds so... So I'm sharing my secret magic power patch here. You can get it individually if you really want a super nice string plus winds. It's a string plus winds orchestra large. I added it here because it just makes it so huge. If we compare it, listen to this. Very, very, very full for the sustains. I didn't want to take them up too many bass frequencies or anything, but I feel like it has a very nice tone to it. And then the same goes to horns. Basically any type of horn would work for this. It's soft horns, so they don't take up too much. Like if you have a big powerful legato horn at max dynamics, then obviously it will cut through anything. Brass in general will. But if you keep it softer, which is very nice, then it's kind of nice. Also, some of you might notice that I don't have any breathing pauses in here, which might be considered a bad thing to do. I just think when we play this, you can kind of hear the horns, but it's not too obvious that you don't hear it, especially because the dynamics go up and down quite a bit. So when you have everything played, you kind of almost don't hear the horns at the softest dynamic. So that also gives the same illusion that it's not breathing. So you don't have to literally put breaks there. At least that's my view on it. So I just kept it like that, which I think works pretty well. And then for the crescendo, which is something, this is basically what I did for most crescendos in most of my album. Symphony, and then boom. What type of boom I use here doesn't really matter, but because I vary that up quite a bit. In this case, it's Albion 1, and then Easter Islands, which is very, very boomy, like really insane. And then the timpani. The timpani is quite important. So this timpani is pretty huge. It's from SSO, and it's for sure my favorite timpani. It sounds so it's such an almighty sound. It sounds so freaking huge. It's insane. And then cymbals. I know some people have grudges against cymbals, but I think they're pretty much the best thing for making transitions, especially when you combine it. So basically, for the trailer people out there, this is probably interesting. You have a little riser, but the riser is the timpani roll. Then you have the cymbals. The cymbals is like, I don't know, maybe a short rise or a suckback. Or I think a whoosh is probably even better to call it. And then the hits. But it's all pretty orchestral. Although these Easter Island ones are quite processed. But it's fine. It works really well in orchestral contexts. You can hear like how huge this sounds. And that's that impact also kind of elevates the next section forwards, especially because the melodies get introduced and the energy builds up here. So yeah, this part, that's basically it, unless anyone has any questions on this part. Otherwise we'll just continue. Okay, let's continue. So after this, you can see it. I also tuned down the tempo a little bit. Boom. From 136. Do I say that correctly? 136 to 136 to 120. I also used another little. I didn't use a cymbal here. I did use timpani roll, but a bit softer dynamics compared to the one before that. You can see it. It's a bit of a difference dynamic wise, because I wanted to keep it sort of subtle. So you kind of get like boom, simple, very simple. This one is important. That high string violin. It's a basically high violin sound. If this was any longer, I would have gone for some sort of evolution patch, or I would have blended in different things, because otherwise it would be too static, but I felt like here it works. The idea behind this was kind of to have that lingering, like, high pitchy note. So I was thinking it's at a very gamer way. When you get hit by a flash grenade, or like another flash grenade, yeah, maybe flash grenade, I don't know, you just get hit by some sort of bomb, and then you get this high pitch in your ear. You hear that's like the conclusion of this bit of the song. And you think, is the vicious cycle over? But no, then it continues. So you get that high pitch, and then the cycle continues. In the context of the song, but everything is slower now, and it's also more emotional, because I added choirs here. So I'm not super happy about choir VST in general. But I felt in this case it kind of works, especially when it comes to legato. The sustains I do think sound quite nice, the syllables. The choirs is a combination. I will elaborate on that in a tiny bit. So first I want to explain like the strings and the choirs together make up a big part of the sounds. Well, basically it's almost everything except for the woodwinds, but we can also add these ones. You can hear how the choir fits very well here, right? It feels very emotional, and I don't know how you call that. It's kind of like dreamy in a way. So basically that. Let's go break down the choirs a bit. So we have Eric Whittaker choir. These are all legatos. So just do some sopranos and tenors, and then for the last part of this section, the altos don't really do much here, to be honest, but they add like some sort of weight. I think the biggest part of the choirs is actually not the legatos, because like I said, I'm not a big fan of them. In general, not even on this library, just in general. These are the main choir thing. The syllables, the chorus, slow syllables. I froze them here, so I'm not gonna open them, because they were a bit heavy on the computer. I mean, I could handle it, but I think it was acting up a bit, so I was just disabling these two specifically. But you can hear how, even if I solo them, they sound very nice. And then especially together with the strings, like then you synergize two great sounds, especially with the strings winds that I showed you a while ago, with the chamber strings from Oliver Arnold and with the Albion 1 strings, and then together that's just... And the slow tempo also contributes to this emotional feeling a lot. So I think it's really cool. You can really feel that magic. And I rely on a lot of like larger halls and a lot of reverb in general because it makes it very spacious. I think that adds a lot to the magic. Which is interesting because the violin on itself kind of feels up front with how I mixed it. But it's not too bad because it's also recorded in a larger hall. Anyways, recording wise, it's quite spacious overall. But in a weirder way than usual. I'm not sure how to describe that, to be honest. I just tried some different mixing for the strings here. But yeah, basically, we have a flute here as well. CSW, Cinematic Studio Woodwinds, but we have room widener on it because room widener, it's very subtle. And then it just helps it blend a bit better with the rest. So you can hear it's like a tiny bit, like feels a bit larger, the room in it, or well the room it's in. So I like to use that on a lot of things, especially Cinematic Studio series. But yeah, nothing too scary this section. So some legatos. I introduced the solo violin again, but this time the solo violin is a legato. It's a pretty amazing one. Of course, doesn't come close to the real thing, but it's way better than most libraries. Also, the glissando sounds a tiny bit weird. The point is, I make sure to not forget what is happening before this song. So I think this is actually quite important about the story of the whole track, because you have the solo violin is kind of like the main character in here, especially in the intro. You have like the... So it's important for it to be pretty obvious when this section doesn't use that same ostinato, because this is kind of like a beat theme, right? While still having the same melody going on. But since it doesn't have that ostinato, I did really want to add in that violin still. And you can hear it, right? Now, at the half of this section, all that happens is just getting a bit bigger because there's a lot of extra instruments. I played the same melody. Well, I did add some variation here, because that's part of the melody. But I stacked it with some ensemble violins, violas, I think. No, cellos and violins here. And there's basses for the bass line. Nothing fancy, so just some simple basses. I didn't even add a sub bass in here at all. So it just feels a bit bigger. I mean, what you can do in there is make it even more. But I wanted to kind of keep this section a bit more emotional and floating, like I did in some more sections throughout the album. So this feels a bit more floaty, and then it can go to like building up to the final thing of the track. So let's just check that out. Unless anyone has any questions about that section. Does anyone have any questions regarding this previous section? Should we go on? Oh, I almost spilled my drink. Okay, let's just move on. Oh, okay, sure, go ahead, because we're starting a new section. Is there synth layered with the brass? You mean this brass? Nope. I don't remember adding a synth in here. It's quite beefy. It's arc brass. You mean this, right? I also think this helps a lot. So I used some like cello and bass marcato stacked in octaves, and they sound very mighty. These are the Pacific ones, and they're super nice. Together with low brass from Arc 1 and Abbey Road. I just used the 2 bass here and the Abbey Road 1 Orchestra Foundation's low brass. Doesn't really matter too much what you use here. Just it's quite beefy. Okay, I actually have all the stuff ready in my template. Although actually, if I were using Ableton, which I am as well, it depends a bit on the DAW. For Ableton, I wouldn't actually do that, and I would probably work with like my contact patches, custom contact patches, and I have a bunch of those, and then just in like a folder on my Mac, and then just to drag and drop it into Contact. But with Cubase, I have a keybind that opens up my entire template, and you can see it just opens up everything. So it's for me, it's just one keybind, and if I click that, it opens up everything, and I can just right click and enable the track. I can disable it and shove it back in if I want. So it's very nice. If I want to add like a flute, then I'm like, okay, boom, keybind, scroll to the flute, right click, enable, and then keybind again, boom, flute is in there. It loads pretty fast. So I start basically with a blank project, but this template has everything in there, and I just need to load it. But it's like a way more efficient way to load it instead of adding a contact patch, finding the right patch, like contact instance, adding the patch. You know, it's a bit more efficient. I also have all the stuff that I like to use a lot, which is a lot. Some of them I don't use as much, but most of this I do use quite regular. It used to be, I don't know, twice as much. But some stuff is a bit more incidental, I have to admit that. I have an even more dumped down version of this. But overall, it doesn't load up anything. It only takes up a bit of storage. Yeah, that's one of the things I don't like about Ableton. But yeah, it's a really nice feature to have. But there are plenty of workarounds. Like you can make sure to open up a bunch of contact instances and make your custom patches and save them just as a contact .nki on your computer. So there's plenty of ways to go around that. But yeah, let's continue. So no, these are not synths. They're just beefy, dirty brass. Also, I think it's mostly the tuba that causes it. But yeah. And now you can also hear the solo violin comes back in. Yeah, it's pretty nice. And what I really like about this thing is, and this is actually a subtle reference to Gone Too Soon, in which it's in the same key, but I also do the thing where you have like, and there you go like. But then in Gone Too Soon it goes like. But basically it's just an ascending bass line, just the bass line that goes up 1, 2, 3, 4 and then back, and then that repeats. So that gives us this very dramatic bomb, and this really represents that vicious cycle so well, especially the viciousness of that cycle. Thank you, Adrian. I'm really happy to hear that. This is probably, when it's on the piano, I can really lose myself in playing that piece more than any others. The brass is really taking over here. You can hear, usually it would be way more soft in the background. I mixed this quite loud because I wanted to put the emphasis in this section on the solo violin and the brass, so it has the, also I disabled these, but with those, the Abbey Road ones, it's even bigger, so you can hear These are the most important layers here, and they feel very large. It just feels super dramatic together with the violin, because it's like very solo. It's a solo violin, so it has this intimate character, which almost feels like some sort of alarm of drama of oh no, which I really like. And then here we have a little crescendo. It's quite solo, but I really like this part. Boom. And that's it for like the main climax. It's very short, but it's like a huge wave of drama, essentially. I really like the choirs there as well. Especially since I shouldn't talk during this part, I assume. But this part I really like. Because the choirs, they just feel so dramatic. And then as well this violin, but I will get into that in a bit. But let's see. And then it stops. So you keep that ascending feeling here, but then I also really put the emphasis on the melody, so you can hear the melody here is on its loudest and its most intense form, and I also add in this simple so nothing too complicated. I copy the exact same thing with the woodwinds here. But also, these. I was really surprised about these, but they sound pretty cool. Bassoons and contrabassoons from Arc 1 to complement the brass. It's not super obvious here, but it's pretty nice. And then the brass also have these horns. And the horns here, they really make sure the melody cuts through in this part. I mean, it's not cutting through too much because there's so many things happening here, and it's kind of part of the chaos because it needs to feel dramatic. Basically, you have all these things going on here, and then the same solo violin that we had this awesome ostinato of. But then here all of a sudden it goes from like a normal rhythm to like a triplet kind of. I think that's so cool. And about this, actually this was I showed this song, this track in the ID because originally I had something similar but on the same rhythm still. So this was a suggestion from my good friend Alonso, and I tried it out and I played around with it, and it sounds super cool. And because you have like this rhythm clashes with everything that's already going on. So I think that's really nice. And that's it. That's the climax part. And now what I really wanted to do with this piece is after that I didn't want to make it feel like a done deal. I wanted to kind of leave it on an unsatisfying sort of note. And then like the cycle continues. The vicious cycle. So I basically continue it, but the whole orchestration here is entirely different. Again. And that's it. Then little boom. Basically this is just the outro is like it's very simple. Just some solo strings. And these are also solo strings by the way. Bass and shallow sustains. This is the only time ever I used this one. It sounds pretty funny. But I felt like it worked with the bass, together with these. because there's nothing else going on. So here it's just playing that same bass line as the brass did before, just way more intimate. But yeah, the whole idea of this is like you have the climax and it feels like big, and then it's quite short, and then it stops and it dies down, and then you have the cycle continues. You have that same bass line that goes up, and you have the violin ostinato from the beginning, from the intro, that you'll recognize from playing throughout most of the song. And yeah, for the brass, indeed, it's mostly arc. With Abbey Road 1. So yeah, but arc is the main thing here. Arc 1 is really aggressive. And yeah, the choirs are also chorus here. There's no Eric Whittaker in this part. And then I didn't really elaborate on this, but I don't think it's super interesting, to be honest. But the percussion is just mostly timpani rolls and then booms and again and again. You can see like at every part it just does the boom. So this makes it feel very boomy, very heavy, arguably a bit muddy even. But I felt like I like it when something sounds like it's almost like a wind blowing in your face, as someone who's gone to school with the bike for many years and just feels it's so cool when like it's very windy and you're like biking against the wind. So that's an inspiration I took in quite a bit of my music, where you have this like almost thunderous feel. You can also hear that in the cymbals here. And I even added some city traffic sounds, but they're very much in the background to noise it up. But it's mostly because I wanted to derive a little sound effect that goes together with the cymbal swell. You can hear it's quite subtle. But yeah, it's basically that. And then you have the outro, in which percussion-wise it ends on a timpani and then into a swell, like a cymbal swell, and then a boom. And then yeah, after this we get dramatic orchestra in the album from the deep end. But yeah, that's basically it. Trying to think if there's anything interesting I'm missing out on here. I think I went over most stuff. So I wonder, does anyone have any questions? Because yeah, this is a really fun piece to write. But yeah, actually the tempo also went back up again when this part started, which is kind of obvious because the whole solo violin thing returns here, and if it's slower it sounds off. But yeah, that's it. I hope you found this interesting. I'm happy to answer some questions if anyone is curious. And otherwise, yeah, thank you all for the 3K subscribers. It really means a lot. It's really insane to think. And especially super cool that it happened on the same day as the release of Lost, because I planned that album release way in advance, so it's really coincidental. Right, I went to a very similar BPM. You might be, oh yeah, I did. Actually I went for a slower here. There's no actual reason that I did that. Wabi sabi. I didn't really think about that. Now you notice it. Now you mention it. It feels a bit slower, yeah. You can hear it. Yeah, there's no specific reason that I went there. I did care about making it slower, but then I went up, and I think what I did is I thought I was in 132, so I thought it was in 132, but I was in 136. So it's mean, I compared like I listened very closely, but I sometimes forget to look at stuff, which is funny. But I think that's it doesn't really matter much because it's the 4 BPM. It's such an insignificant change. The growing inertia, wait, the growing inertia of the cycle. Yeah, you can build it up, but there's no specific reason here. But yeah, I really liked writing this piece, and I was thinking because quite a few people voted for Broken Dream, to also do a track breakdown of that one, and I might even do more from Lost. Might even cover a bunch of them. Maybe we can even break down violence. If you're cool with that, Ron, we can discuss that, like we do it in a Twitch stream for people if they're interested. But that's up to you as well. But I'm definitely thinking of doing For Broken Dream as well, because that one is just so cool to go over, and it's gonna take quite long as well, because that song is like 8 minutes something. But it's like where all the themes come together, and orchestration wise, it's super interesting. Really, probably my favorite work to date. So yeah, but for now, Vicious Cycle. You can watch the replay on Twitch, but I actually plan on uploading this one on my YouTube channel as soon as possible. And not on my EXO YouTube channel. I have a Ben Berkenbosch Extra YouTube channel on which I post all my shorts. If you're curious, I might link it in a YouTube community section of my channel, but I might also just post it on Discord. So if you're part of my Discord server, feel free to join it. If you're not, you can find it on my YouTube channel, Ben Berkenbosch. It shouldn't be hard to find. But anyways, thank you all for coming here, and thank you all for being here with me, listening to how I talk about my writing process and about the craziness in my head. There's a bunch of songs that are even crazier in my head, and I can ramble about this for hours. So if you would be interested in seeing more, definitely let me know. I'm definitely planning to do For Broken Dream, just because I want to talk about that one. And since Ron, you find it cool to talk about violence, I think we should also plan that. But let's see when we should do that. Anyways, thank you all. I'm gonna keep it at this. We're not gonna make this a very long stream, but it would be cool if we can do For Broken Dreams soon. Maybe even this week or maybe next week. Depends a bit on my agenda. And with that being said, a little plug. If you want to do private lessons, I'm still open for new students. So just send me a message or book a free call, which you can do through my YouTube as well. But yeah. And those private lessons I also tend to do these track breakdowns. So it's really cool to now do them for a stream. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening or a great morning or a great whatever. Maybe you're on an alternate universe on Pluto and enjoy your space journey. I see you. Bye bye.